my heart. We'll sail the South Canaries. We could go all the way to space. You know that this is the way to my heart.
Welcome, we're back. Got a new week ahead of us, different camera angles, so now I have to look directly at my screen. How's everybody doing? Hopefully everything is good right now, but looking at Bitcoin, things are very good. Almost touched 40K about 5-10 minutes ago. You know, Bitcoin was already having a great day and then just decided to go even crazier. So in the last hour, or really in the last 20 minutes, it went from 36.8K all the way up to nearly 40K just out of nowhere on really, really high volume as well. I mean, that's the highest volume we've seen on Bitcoin probably since the end of June, really in a month. So that's the highest volume we've seen in Bitcoin in a long time. The last time I was live was this state right over here on this green candle, and I showed this falling wedge. I think I also talked about the bullish engulfing candle. And eventually it broke out of the falling wedge, and now we're seeing the price react. So things are going very, very well, not only for Bitcoin, but a bunch of other cryptos. I put out 3 different crypto trade ideas last week. Dogecoin was one of them. That's currently up 10% since the entry. Atom was another. That's also up about 15% since the entry. Confirmed hidden bullish divergence on the daily. And then we also had Chainlink, which is currently up 20% since the entry of this trade alerted last week. So if you're in crypto, you're probably having a good time. I know Sunday is usually not the best day for crypto if you kind of look at, you know, the weeks, at least for the last year, but today has been a great day so far for crypto. We're going to see how that affects stocks, because there's a lot of stocks in the market like Riot and Mara and SOS and EBON and a bunch of others that do react according to how Bitcoin does. They have a lot of correlation. But yeah, speaking about the stock market, kind of the opposite thing happening right now for futures overnight. S&P futures are down about 1/3%. It's not the end of the world, but they are a little bit red right now. NASDAQ futures are relatively flat. But going into this week, we have a huge week of earnings. Let me take a look at this really quickly. We have Tesla, Logitech tomorrow. We have Apple, AMD, Microsoft, Alphabet, Visa, Starbucks on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have Facebook, Ford, PayPal, Qualcomm. Thursday, we have Amazon, Pinterest, Twilio, Gilead, T-Mobile. And then Friday, we got some industrials. We got ExxonMobil, Caterpillar, P&G, Chevron. Huge earnings week, probably the biggest earnings week that we're going to have for the second quarter, I believe. So we're going to see what those results look like. Obviously, that can heavily impact the market. And yeah, we're going to take a look at the overall market. We're going to talk about Clover, AMC, SOFI, the ongoing trades. We got a decent amount of ongoing trades, about 6 or 7. And then after we cover all that, we'll probably do take requests for the rest of the stream. So yeah, glad to be back. Gonna hopefully be live every single night this week like I usually am up until Thursday night. So yeah, let's get into it. Just talk about the market first off. Obviously, earnings is going to be the biggest catalyst this week. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we also have the Fed meeting this week, if I'm not mistaken. So the last Fed meeting did not go too well. It pretty much, I believe, was in the middle of June. I think it was this. I think this was the reaction we had off the last Fed meeting, about a 2% drop. And that was pretty much a low before an insane rally for both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. So can't even really see it on the NASDAQ. But yeah, you know, we're coming off of a really good week last week. We had a horrible day on Monday. And then for the NASDAQ, we pretty much went green every single day of the week. We went to all-time highs. And it was a really important week last week. We finally backtested 14,000.2 or 14.2K on the NASDAQ last week, which was the previous resistance the whole year. We backtested that as support last week, which is something I really like going into earnings, because even if we have a terrible earnings season and that drags down the NASDAQ, then we already know where the clear level is, 14.2K. So that's, you know, what I'm going to be watching if we have a horrible week. But we're just coming off of 5 green candles on a row. We're at all-time highs. On the 4-hour, there's hidden bullish divergence for the NASDAQ on the MACD and RSI. Same thing for the S&P 500. So looks like things are okay for right now, but obviously earnings can change that either way. You know, small caps and mid caps still have been lagging large cap tech pretty much this whole entire month, apart from a couple of days. I believe at the end of the week before last week, if that kind of makes sense. But even the Russell and the ARK ETF, which tracks small caps and then mid cap growth, look pretty interesting. The Russell 2000 is back above this demand line. It's within a descending broadening wedge. There's classic bullish divergence on the 4-hour. If we look at the ARK ETF, there's hidden bullish divergence on the 4-hour. It already broke out of a descending broadening wedge and it backtested the 200-day moving average. If you're a premium member, we made 40% profit on the ARK ETF on Friday. We day traded it. Well, you actually could have held it going into this week if you wanted to. But yeah, we had a really good day trade playing options on the ARK. All of the indices kind of look bullish going into this week if we're just talking about technicals. Now, again, fundamentals can overweigh that. If we have terrible earnings this week, or even if people just sell the news on earnings, if the Fed meeting, which I believe is this week, doesn't go well, if there's Delta variant news, you have to keep watching the news because that can obviously override all of this. But going into the week, things look pretty good. So hopefully we can just continue this reflex rally we've seen over the past 4 or 5 days. But again, you got to be ready for when things don't really go your way, because futures currently are a little bit red. Anything else I really want to look at? Dow Jones also, I believe, is right around all-time highs. The US 10-year notes kind of rejecting 200-day moving average, which is fine, but there is some classic bullish divergence on the 10-year note. There was a bounce the last time we had classic bullish divergence. So if you look at the dollar, that's just kind of floating up. It looks like the market's kind of back on autopilot for right now, which was kind of what it felt like at the end of last month. And then pretty much this month we've had a volatile S&P, but for the most part we just went to all-time highs. Really everything's been pretty good for the last 4 or 5 days, apart from some small caps and mid caps, which are still kind of lagging. So we'll see how those perform this week. But it's all about earnings, in my opinion. That could obviously change things in either direction. And those large cap tech stocks like Amazon and Apple and Facebook and I think Qualcomm as well, those can easily affect the indices because they make up a large percent of the holdings. So we have to keep attention to all of that. Tesla is tomorrow, which is going to be the first huge one. And yeah, we're going to see what all this turns into. Just going to recap the ongoing trades. After I do that, we're going to talk about Clover, AMC, and SOFI. So make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the stream. Let's just get started. Fisker is first up for the ongoing trades. Hidden bullish divergence on the daily. It closed cents under the 200-day moving average. A lot of small caps in general didn't really have a good morning on Friday. So we'll see what this turns into. The trade's still up 3%. I would just like to see Fisker get back above the 200-day moving average. We all know how I feel about this stock. So hopefully this trade can eventually play out. But again, nothing is ever certain. I believe I put this out either on Thursday or Friday last week, but I put out a new idea on skills. Really the idea here is like a little bit of a bullish bat formation over this 1423 level, which we go back a little bit. This 1423 used to be resistance at the end of last year. and maybe it's flipping into support right now. So I'm going to be watching the skills going into this week. Do keep in mind that earnings are in the beginning of August, so if you're swinging it, you definitely want to be aware of that. Next one is BlackBerry. This chart really does look really good to me, but again, it's just not really seeing great price action for now, just because small caps just aren't doing too well. This might be a mid cap, but you get the point. Even mid caps are kind of lagging, but BlackBerry, bullish bat, down sloping channel. Hopefully the MACD can start increasing positive momentum, but a little bit of hidden bullish divergence. Definitely on the daily. So this trade is currently down 4%. Wish is another one down about 5%. This was also put out last week. Just, you know, regardless of the bullish technicals, just a lot of these small mid caps still are not really seeing much of a bounce. Even though the NASDAQ was up every single day last week, a lot of small caps had red weeks last week. Wish, I mean, it was technically at the same price that opened after 5 days of trading. So it's just been a really rough market. It kind of reminds me of February and March, where you see the NASDAQ and the S&P just floating up to all-time highs, but you know, the majority of, not the majority, but a good amount of small and mid caps are just not doing well. I mean, they're still way off their February highs. So if you look at things, or if you look at most stocks, a lot of growth stocks and small caps were pretty much peaked out in the middle of February, and they still have not even gotten close to getting back there, even though since February the S&P and the NASDAQ are both much higher. So it's definitely weird, you know. It's just kind of the big names pulling up the market, and that's what we're seeing right now. Final ongoing trade, just to recap it, DOC, this trade's up 2%. It's a very slow mover, but everything's looking good for right now. Hopefully this can get above 19 this week. That's a pretty real resistance. And I already talked about the crypto trades, which are just continuing higher right now. The link trade's about up 21% now, 22%. The Atom crypto trade is currently up probably 18% right now since the entry. And then the Doge trade is probably up about 12 or 11% there. So crypto trades are doing pretty well. Bitcoin is right under 38K right now, pulling back a little bit. If we go over to, let me go to lower time frames, go over to the 15-minute, still not much. Yeah, just not a lot of data right now currently. It's just kind of going up and now it's pulled back. So gotta wait a little bit for more data, some sort of a pattern to appear. But this falling wedge, you know, I talked about in the Discord, I talked about on my last stream, I think it was like last Wednesday when Bitcoin was at like 31.5K. I talked about the bullish engulfing candle, the falling wedge, the reclaiming that 30K level. It's been a really, really good past few days for Bitcoin, especially in the past few hours. Yeah, now let's talk about 3 other stocks that I just like to mention on the stream because a lot of people care about them. Clover, AMC, and SOFI. We're going to start off with Clover. Down 7% last week. The thing with Clover, really, it's like, you know, these bullish technicals continue appearing, and we do get bounces. We get really nice bounces on Clover. A lot of times it pops in the morning, then it fades out for the rest of the day. The thing with Clover right now is just the float is terrible. There's a lot of bag holders in this stock. I don't know what it is right now, but the last time I looked, Webull was reporting that like the average cost was like $18 for shares on their platform, which is really high compared to the current price. There's just a lot of bag holders in Clover, and there's most likely a lot of shorts. I don't know for sure, but there have been pretty high short interest reports and a lot of weird stuff in terms of like the cost to borrow and the short volume ratios and all that stuff. But really it's like Clover, you know, there's a lot of people that are very bullish on this name. I like this name fundamentally and technically. I've liked it for a while. It's just every single time it bounces, it ends up getting sold off, and that's just what it's done. So hopefully we can get at some point a bunch of float rotation, because right now the flow is just horrible. So really what you're looking for on Clover is either just a trend reversal, which would just mean higher highs and higher lows, or just one huge day, maybe because of catalyst, where you get a lot of volume, and therefore bag holders could cut their losses and you can get some more optimistic traders into the float. But yeah, like I said, you know, we had a couple of failed swing trades on Clover earlier this month. I said this already, I'm not really looking to swing trade Clover for the short term just because of all these, you know, bounces getting sold off right away. So where I've been finding success with Clover is just, you know, doing short-term trades on options. Last week we, I think, twice made profit trading Clover calls. I think one day we got like 60% profit, or no, one day we got 100% profit on it overnight, and then I think on was Thursday or Friday, we might have gotten like 40%. I can't remember, but we've made a lot of money trading Clover options in the premium group. That's just what I do best. It's just how I found success with this because, you know, I look at the low time frames, they look bullish. I look at the options make sense to me, and I share them with the premium members. We make our profits. I mean, it's been insane the amount of Clover calls we've traded. And I think like probably 80% of them have been winners just off the top of my head. So I'm just gonna stick to trading options with Clover because I've just been killing it with that, and I just have not been killing it with swings. I'm sure at some point you might get some sort of a catalyst and it just goes crazy, and I hope that does happen. It's just for right now, the life has to come in. You know, the life really has to show up for Clover. If you look at the technicals, you still have hidden bullish divergence on the daily. You still have hidden bullish divergence on the 4 hour. It actually could potentially double bottom at the pattern completion zone of a bullish crab. Still has yet to really confirm that, but like I've been saying for weeks now, the technicals are bullish. The float is bearish. You know, there's a lot of back holders and there is a lot of shorts. So it's just it's a big battle. Whenever we do see more life in this name, I'm still going to be happy about it. It's just for right now, I'll wait until it's there, and I'll just continue to trade options on it until then. But yeah, moving on, we got AMC. Just talking about it. Kind of 50-50 here on AMC. It's at a make or break level. You know, this 36 area, if we go over on the weekly, used to be resistance back in 2015 and 2016. It's kind of right around that level. If we go over to the daily, it's right in between a support and resistance, that 36 support, and then a minor resistance at like 38.67 from like a 2-day low in the beginning of the month, and then July 16th high. So for AMC, support resistance, you really don't have a clear sign. You're kind of in between them. You do have hidden bullish divergence on the daily developing. So we'll see what happens with AMC. I would definitely like to see AMC make a higher low than 31, which was this previous swing low. That's probably the most important thing for AMC in the short term. If it can create a higher low, I mean, 51 is always possible. That's the next major resistance. It just has to stay above 31. Otherwise, there's room back down to 21 if you just zoom out, right? We go over to the daily maybe. Yeah, if you just zoom out, if you break 31, I mean, there's really not much in between this low over here and then, you know, your previous highs at 21 from 2018. There's just not much in this area. So that's really it for AMC. Moving on, we'll talk about SOFI. Bounced up a little bit, I believe, last Wednesday, and then it pulled back a little bit on Thursday and Friday. SOFI looks really interesting. You know, there's hidden bullish divergence almost confirmed on the daily. You probably could consider both Thursday and Friday to just be inside days because you technically haven't, you know, fallen under Wednesday's open. So as long as SOFI can just stay above last week's lows, I think it still looks pretty interesting. It did hit around the PCZ of a bullish back, got a little bit deep. It definitely has potential. It's just, again, similar to Clover, there's just a lot of pessimistic traders within the float that got in at much higher prices, and that's what just tends to happen when you have a stock, you know, have a crazy run and then people just don't take profits and they hold their bags on the way down. Once you get to lower prices, it becomes a lot harder to see bigger moves because every time you go up in price, people want to cut their loss, and it's not the best environment in terms of like the psychology of the stock or the psychology of the traders in that stock. So it takes time, it takes volume, it takes patience. We'll see what happens with SOFI. And that's really the recap going into this week. You know, currently the market is bullish. It has been technically ever since the COVID crash. But obviously the Fed meeting this week and the major earnings can change things in either direction. It can make us go even higher. It could drop us pretty low. You know, you just gotta take it for what it is. It's gonna be a really interesting week. I definitely am excited for this week. Let me take a look at the chat. Yeah, make sure to join the Discord. Neutron Flux Labs just dropped the link in the chat. The link's also in the description. Make sure to hit that like button. We should definitely be at 20 likes right now. I know when I take a break from streaming, it takes a few days to get back into like the full swing of things, but remember, just hit that like button. Helps out a lot. Medi says if you're not a premium, you're missing out. Link for that's in the description. And yeah, I'm back. So probably just gonna relax for the rest of the stream. Probably gonna be a quicker stream as well. Just kind of get back into the flow of things. We'll probably just do ticker requests for the rest of the stream as well. So if you want me to look at a ticker for you, just drop it in the chat. Don't request anything that was up over 30% on Friday. Don't request anything that IPO'd within the last month. I need data and consistency to chart how I chart. Let's get to it. Pretty much at 20 likes right now. Thank you for that. Bitcoin currently at 38K. A lot of altcoins are starting to catch up right now. Dogecoin's putting in a move. This trade is currently up 13%. If you got in at the entry last week, the Atom trade is currently still up 18%, and then Link is now up, oh my gosh, still around 22%. But yeah, if you're wondering where these trade ideas come from, join the Discord, links in the description, or follow me on Twitter at @ChampionVibe, and that's where I share all those ideas. So yeah, let's get into these ticker requests. Probably gonna start off with Visa. DF Miami is great, thank you. Oh, Visa's just V, I think. Yeah. All right. Got Airbnb. Where is that? Okay. Yeah, Doge is at 21 cents. Yeah, Geo is a monster on the weekly chart for sure. Have a good one, Skip T. Lou. Alright, this will probably be the first round to take requests. Let's get started with it. We got Visa up first, right around all-time highs. There's really not much to do here. I mean, the trend is bullish. There's actually a little bit of hidden bullish divergence on the 4-hour chart right now. It says earnings are on 27th, and this might be the case for a lot of tickers I look at tonight because it's a huge earnings week. Technicals mean nothing when you have earnings a couple days away, so it all just comes down to the earnings. I don't even really want to talk about technicals. We could just talk about the levels maybe. You know, you have support at 237, 228, and 217, and then you have resistance at technically right here. It's, you know, your all-time high, and it's also the 1618 from your previous swing low or swing high to swing low. If you do break to new all-time highs, your 2618 will be around $266. That's really it. But again, you could go either direction. Earnings will probably decide that. EOSE. This one's pretty interesting. So it's kind of like a little bit of a channel over here, but if you zoom out, you have a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders as well. Something like this. Then your neckline would be like that. So it's kind of like a down sloping channel for your right shoulder of an inverse head and shoulders. Hitting bullish divergence is possible. You just need your MACD to start going back towards green again. That's really it. So we'll see what happens with that one. Now we got App Harvest. This could be a harmonic in the making. Pretty close to a bullish bat. Like literally like right now it's pretty close to one, and that also makes sense because it's right above this 1170 area. It was resistance last October, support in November. So you probably just want to make a higher low above 1170. That's what you'd be looking for, and if you can do that, then hidden bullish divergence is also possible here. It needs some life. You know, it's not really bouncing just yet. Hopefully these variables can allow for a bounce soon, but obviously a lot of factors will come into play for that. IDEX, hidden bullish divergence on the daily. It did reject the 200-day moving average last week. I think it really just has to hold above 223. As long as it can do that, it looks fine to me. That's just the important level for IDEX. Resistance would just be the 200-day moving average, and that's really it. RSLS. I would really like this to get back above like 470. It kind of might be breaking a demand line here. Looks like it broke it and now it's using it as a resistance, so now it's like a supply line. Yeah, I'd like to see this get back above 470. Guess you have a little bit of a resistance here back from, or support here back from January at around 413, so you probably just want to hold these local lows, but to be more bullish, I'd like it above 470. That's just the easiest way to put it. Just had an alert go off. Oh, Atom is moving. Yeah, so the crypto trades are just kind of going one by one right now. Let me just reset these alerts. Give me a second here. I don't want these to just continue messing around. What's up, Eric, in the chat? Alright, let's get back to Coinbase next. Not a lot you can do here on Coinbase on the daily, so we're going to move over to the 4-hour. This also could be pretty close to a bullish bat on the 4-hour, maybe a little bit deep on the D point. Kind of like a scuffed bullish bat, made a bounce. It's a very, very weird chart. I mean, I would just look at this whole entire area as a range, like all of this. I just look at this as one big range. Extremely neutral to me. I mean, we'll see how this does with Bitcoin, you know, just almost touching 40K. We'll see if Coinbase does anything with that this week. But it's just very unclear looking at this chart directly to me. We got CHWY up next. It's just in a range right now between 76 and 88. If it breaks above 88, your next resistance will be 92. Otherwise, you probably just want to hold the 200-day moving average around 82. If you don't do that, then you could drop back down to 76. But that looks like 6 green days in a row for CHWY, which is really good. That's really it, I'd say. Maybe you could look at this like an inverse head and shoulders as well. If you looked at it, it's something like this, but it's not the most clear structure. A range would probably be a better way to just look at it. Yeah, above 88, I'd say CHWY looks pretty good. It just has to get there first. Gold Miner says, do you think small caps will get even slower if the crypto and altcoin markets take off again? Last time seemed like small caps died and everyone was playing cryptos. I mean, this is a good point. Definitely both are, you know, small and mid caps, especially more speculative ones, comparing that to altcoins. They're pretty, I'd say a lot of the traders are pretty similar for both. A lot of retail traders for sure. I don't like really thinking about, you know, the market like that, just because like you could speculate on that all you want. It's really hard to get like actual data. I mean, obviously if you see, you know, cryptos and altcoins just going up like crazy, and then on the other hand, small caps not doing well, it's just like, you know, altcoins are already going back up and small caps haven't been doing anything for the last however many weeks, pretty much this whole entire month. So I'm not really too sure. We got HMBL next. There's nothing I can do on this chart, not enough data. Roblox looks pretty interesting to me. You have classic bullish divergence on the 4-hour, and then you have also classic bullish divergence on the daily within a falling wedge. I'm bullish on Roblox above 78. That was a previous resistance from the end of April, beginning of May, flipped into support in June. I like Roblox above 78. You even got a falling wedge. I was looking at this earlier today when I was scanning for premium. Pretty interesting, Roblox. If it can break out of this falling wedge this week, I mean, it has room up to 94. If it breaks 94, it can retest all-time highs. It just has to stay above 78. HYLN is next. I was looking at this last week. A bullish bat as possible would have to drop all the way down to 843 to hit the PCZ, but you do have hidden bullish divergence on the daily. It's a pretty interesting chart if you just zoom in, but if you zoom out, it's a very, very ugly downtrend. So at the end of the day, it's all about just staying above $8 on HYLN, and hopefully you can make a higher low than that, confirm the hidden bullish divergence, complete the bullish bat, and then we'll see what happens with earnings. Airbnb is next. somewhat classic bullish divergence. You made the same low on price with a higher low on your MACD as well as your RSI. So that's pretty good. Apart from that, I'm not too sure. You know, it's just kind of like a little bit of a double bottom here. If it can hold above 137, then you got 143 as your next resistance, and then after that 161. That's really all I would be watching on Airbnb. Next we got PHUN. This could be like a big harmonic, but it's going to be really unclear. There's probably a bunch of ways you could chart this. I don't think that the B point matters on sharks, so I don't know if you could call this a bullish shark. Maybe, maybe not. Depends. Might be a little bit stretched. Also, the C point's a little bit too shallow, so I probably wouldn't. I'm not too sure. It's like definitely a deep retrace, but a very choppy chart. This 108 level, where it's currently at, is pretty important. It was your lows from December 2019, almost your lows in June of 2020. Probably want to hold this. There's not too much I can do apart from that on PHUN. We got Geo up next. It's an amazing chart on the weekly. It broke out of a falling wedge. Major bullish crab dating back like 5 years. I think there's also, yeah, there's classic bullish divergence on the 4-hour. Hidden bullish divergence on the daily. Like from a technical standpoint, Geo is like a monster. It's one of the best technical stocks that I can think of. The only thing is, like, it's been in a downtrend for 5 years, so something fundamentally is definitely not going well. And earnings, according to TradingView, are at the beginning of August, so that'll also be a big catalyst, either good or bad for the short term. And then another one, Tesla. I think the Tesla chart looks really nice above the 200-day moving average, which it pretty much closed right at on Friday. But again, technicals mean nothing when you have earnings literally tomorrow. So it's all up to the earnings tomorrow. Unfortunately, I have no clue how the earnings are going to go, so I can't help you there. So we'll see how the earnings go. We'll talk after that. From a technical standpoint, I like it. But again, earnings can invalidate all the technicals should they be bad. But you know, what I'm looking at here is, like, you know, potential for hidden bullish divergence, maybe a little bit of Wyckoff accumulation over here, trying to double bottom over the 200-day moving average. Above 600, it looks really interesting, but earnings will be the decision maker. Bumble, not a lot of data on the chart. That's really all I can do. I mean, you have support at 46, probably some resistance at 57 from these two lows. You're right in between both of them. Very 50-50 for me. DM is next. Not a very clear B point. I don't like it at all-time lows, I'll say that for sure. And again, you know, this technically from a value standpoint can be, you know, one of the best areas to get in, just because, you know, anybody who bought up here is at a loss. If you got over here, you'd be break even for now. But, you know, from a technical standpoint, I'd like to see it get back above 10. You know, that was a major support. You broke under it. Now that you're under it, there's not much support left. So yeah, I mean, you know, maybe it starts showing better signals, but I'd like to see it get back above 10. If it can do that, then there's room all the way up to like 13 to test that. So I'd like to see it above 10 first. Under 10 is just a very 50-50 situation. I don't really know anything about it fundamentally. All right. I can't speak right now. All right. FTCH is next. Wow, these charts are just not super clear to me, unfortunately. $53.54 is your resistance. In terms of support, probably a little bit here at 46, 45.50. I really don't see much to talk about here from a technical standpoint. I'm gonna move on. That doesn't mean it's gonna go down, just means I have no clue. EBON is next. Maybe a little bit of a bullish crab here. Not much divergence and it's at all-time lows, but we'll see how this does. I think this is like a crypto mining stock potentially, and you know, with Bitcoin going crazy right now, we'll see how this reacts this week. I don't know if you put an EXPR. Let me just make sure. That was XPER bat on the daily. Got really deep on that final point, but you could kind of look at it like an alternate bat maybe. Yeah, it already had a reaction back above the 200-day moving average. I think anything above the 200-day moving average on this looks pretty good. You have quite a lot of historical resistance between really around 22 bucks. So that would be a major resistance, really even up to 23. Like this whole entire range, 21.75 to 23. It's pretty big resistance. If you can eventually break that, then you got like 24.80 next. And in terms of support, you definitely just want to stay above 19. What else we got here? So that's XPER. Zoom out to the weekly. ITMPF on the weekly, it looks pretty interesting. You have hidden bullish divergence on the weekly, on the MACD, and on the RSI. I think the really important level here is 461. It was your weekly high in June of 2020, weekly low in December 2020, and then it was 3 different weekly lows in May pretty much. So I think on the weekly, 461 is a very, very important level here. And then probably for resistance, you could just chart. Maybe it already broke out of this, like kind of like a descending triangle. And now it's actually flipping the previous resistance into a support. So on the weekly, it does look really interesting, as long as it can hold above 461. Yeah, ITMPF. NCLH, a lot of travel stocks. I mentioned this in the Discord earlier today. A lot of travel stocks are currently right under the 200-day moving averages, and they have classic bullish divergence on the daily. This one doesn't really have divergence on the daily, but you could see it's like the same thing. Like, let me just go over to my other watch list. Start off with Southwest Airlines, classic bullish divergence on the daily, right under the 200-day moving average. Delta, classic bullish divergence on the daily, right under the 200-day moving average. Same thing for UAL. Same thing for Save. And for the cruise lines, they're also right under the 200-day moving average, but they don't really have any classic bullish divergence. So if anybody's been here since January, I made a video in January, you know, pretty much talking about how I was super bullish on travel stocks for like the next 3 or 4 months. Let me fix that. If we go back to, where was it? Right here. This was around when I made the video. And like literally within weeks, all the travel stocks just started ripping. This is a very similar situation to that. All the travel stocks again are looking the same, except they're just right under the 200-day moving averages. So as you can see here, I have alerts set up on all of the travel stocks right now, right above their 200-day moving averages. If these stocks can reclaim above the 200-day moving averages, I'm going to be looking to trade probably calls on them in the short term, because that would be a very good sign to me. Now, you do have to keep in mind the Delta variant will probably affect this sector more than most. So you have to be keeping attention with all of that. But very interesting to see how all these travel stocks are doing the same exact thing in very interesting areas where literally below you're technically kind of a little bit bearish. But if you get above the 200-day moving average, then you're breaking above the 200-day moving average with classic bullish divergence on the daily. You'd probably also be breaking supply lines on every single one of these charts. You look at it like this. So I definitely, you know, they're on my watch list for this week. I just want to see them get above the 200-day moving averages first, because, you know, if this breaks the 200-day moving average, it'll probably confirm classic bullish divergence. It'll probably break a supply line, and you could say the same thing for every single one of these pretty much. Look at that. So they're at very, very huge make or break areas, and all they need to do, in my opinion, is break the 200-day moving average. a lot of, big institutions are going to be looking at the same exact moving average. That's probably the most common one for institutions to look at, the 200 SMA. So yeah, travel stocks on my watch list for this week at very, very important areas. And if we do get confirmation of the 200-day moving average breaks, I'll be probably trading them in the short term. I think somebody in the chat asked, do I use EMAs or SMAs? I mainly use simple moving averages because I usually only use moving averages on higher time frames. Sometimes I use EMAs if I'm on lower time frames. From what I understand, simple moving averages are a little bit more lagging, and they kind of just compile the average price over the last however many days, like it was the 200-day moving average or the 200 SMA. It'll just compile the average price out for the last 200 days. But EMAs, not only do they just average out the price, they also take into account the short term. So if you have a stock where, let's say for the last 200 days, it's pretty much had an uptrend, but only in the last 15 days it started dumping a lot, it'll actually curve that moving average line down quicker than it would on the SMA. So that's just my understanding of it. It could be a little bit wrong. I was watching another YouTube channel, they were talking about it. I just prefer the SMAs because usually I just want the overall trend for like the last year or so. And that's why really the only moving averages you're ever going to see on my charts is the 200-day. But sometimes if I go over to like the 1 hour, I'll pull up a few other different moving average lines that I just have hidden currently. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, let's go back to the watch list. And Medi said I got it right. All right, thank you. So yeah, moving on, we got Rocket. This could be kind of like a harmonic. I mean, it already is kind of like a harmonic, but got a little bit past the 786. So like a failed Gartley. I mean, eventually it could turn into a crab if it goes way lower. Let me just clear everything up here. I would like to see Rocket get back above like 18 bucks because that was your lows from August and November of last year. Maybe just a little bit of like a downsloping channel here. Yeah, just in a downsloping channel. I'd like to see it break out first just because the trend's not good right now. So when something, is in a downsloping wedge or a channel and the overall trend is already bearish, a lot of times I like to see it break out before I get bullish because if you entered here, it could easily just go here, make another lower high, and then drop again. So might just take some patience there for Rocket. But I still don't understand Rocket at that price fundamentally. That's not financial advice, but I do think Rocket should be valued higher. I'm probably missing something. I haven't looked too much into it. ISRG might be breaking out of this upsloping channel to the upside, which is very impressive. Just very, very bullish right now, this name. In terms of Fibonacci, your 2618 resistance would be 1052, and then in terms of support, you got a little bit of support at 927, and then after that 893. NCTY, didn't we already look at this? I don't know. It's at a make or break area, this 858 level. It was your lows from January of this year. It's trying to find support here for the last week. Could be argued you have kind of classic bullish divergence on the daily. You've made a lower low on price, and now your MACD has a lot lower levels of negative momentum compared to all the way up here. I mean, look, if you zoom out, look how crazy this 858 level is. It's not just that low. It's like literally all these lows from 2018 to 2019. So it's all about this area. This is like the make or break area for NCTY. Hopefully you can get a bounce here. And then it says earnings should be September 1st. So you got some time until then. Let's see, let's look at it like this. Maybe a deep crab. Got a little bit lower than the 1618, so we'll see. That's NCTY. Yeah, Rocket did become a meme stock, unfortunately. All right, so MSTR will be the final ticker of the night from TMS. And look at 4 more. First one is LEV. It's approaching, you know, a demand area from the past. This $12 to $14 zone has been a local bottom 3 times this year already. So we'll see if we can bottom out there again. Hidden bullish divergence, it needs to go up like very soon for hidden bullish divergence to confirm, because it's getting very, very close to the lows in May. So you definitely want to stay above those lows. You want to make a higher low than your low in May. In terms of a harmonic, it already passed the PCZ for Gartley, so a crab will be a little bit lower. Well, actually, 2618 could line up with just about your lows from April. So we'll see what happens there. It's nearing a demand area historically. I mean, even if we look at volume over here, yeah, it's not looking too good. All right, let me try and do this. So like you could, let me try and line up better. Yeah, you could see, so if we look at the volume here, like most of the volume has been traded here because it has not been under this level. So if you do break these levels, then you're kind of going to be entering areas where you just haven't really visited that much. So from a support standpoint, even from a volume standpoint, this is where you want it to bounce, otherwise you're kind of going into deep waters. RMO is next. Hidden bullish divergence is possible here if it makes a higher low than about 630. It really needs to bounce here. You know, this is a make or break area. If it breaks that support, then you don't really have any horizontal support left. But it kind of did break a supply line, so we'll see if maybe even like a falling wedge. Yeah, kind of looks like it broke out of a falling wedge like last week. So all you gotta do is just stay above 630, your lows, your all-time lows from May 14th. TeleDoc is next. I don't like TeleDoc under 167. Earnings according to TradingView are on the 27th, so that could be good or bad, depends on how they go. So hopefully earnings can be good and it breaks above 167, but again, I have no clue how earnings go. If it ever does break above 167, then you got a gap fill at 185, and then major resistance at like 230. So those will be the levels I'd be looking at. If it can't break it, then your major support is like 135-ish from your lows in March of last year and then May of this year. So that's really all I'd be watching on TeleDoc. MicroStrategy, cup and handle, no. So you're probably looking at it like this, right? So that's your cup, and then you're probably looking at the handle, something like this. On a cup and handle, right, if you go from your low in the cup to the high in the cup and you use Fibonacci, you don't want your handle to break under the 50% retrace, right? You want your handle to be kind of short, you know, something like this, because then it shows that the bears couldn't bring the price down that much. So now you can kind of just forget that rounding bottom and just look at it, you know, maybe just like this, right? You have some supply like this, and then look at it like that. Maybe like a descending broadening wedge would be the better way to look at it. And it's kind of spent 3 days just within this little 3-day range. So I guess whichever way it breaks out of this mini range will probably be telling for the short term. That's really it. I like that it is above the 200-day moving average, but you do have a gap fill at around 506.2. And then LEV, just to double check on that. Yeah, make sure to hit that like button. Let's get to 25 likes right now. It's going to be the final ticker of the night. Harmonics starting the 21st of April. I mean, if I was charting a harmonic, I'd probably go with this low, because that looks like a better swing low to use here. And then you really wouldn't have one, at least not like a textbook one. If you do go like this, then maybe you can try and stretch it a little bit. I don't know. That just doesn't look that good to me. me just try it like this as well. If you just call this one wave, then still, you know, it would be a 618 from X to B. So you're thinking about a Gartley or a crab, and it's already past the PCZ of the Gartley, and a crab PCZ would be lower, which I think we were looking at earlier. So I'm not too sure. Maybe I'm just not seeing it as you are. Head and shoulders, kind of maybe. I also get what you're saying here. Maybe something like that. And then it already have broke the neckline, right? Neckline would probably be something like this. So it already broke out to downside. It's already been playing out. But yeah, that'll probably do it for that. And Bitcoin currently at 38.2K. A lot of altcoins are doing very, very nicely right now. Crypto is rolling right now, so we'll see how this continues going into the week. Just wanted to do a quick stream tonight, just get back into the flow of things, start, you know, getting that momentum back into the streams, and we're gonna be back to the normal schedule pretty much here now. So I'll be live again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. EST. Good luck to everybody trading this week, and join the Discord. The link's in the description. Hit that like button if you didn't already. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and yeah, thanks for watching the stream. Have a good one.